Reflected the moonlight. They've been lying to us, keeping us dependent, making us believe we needed their feeding clusters to survive, but you do need them. Reese pointed out. You were dying without one. No, Apheline countered. I need connection, natural biological connection. The clusters were just controlled versions of what should have been our natural state. They engineered dependency, not symbiosis. A distant sound caught Race's attention, the distinctive whine of Imperial hover tanks. We need to move, he urged, taking her hand. We can discuss evolutionary biology after we escape the planet. They sprinted toward the edge of the glass wastes, a vast expanse where the sand had been transformed into jagged, uneven sheets of black glass that reflected the starlight like a broken mirror. As they stepped onto the glassy surface, it cracked beneath their weight, the sound echoing ominously. Stay close, Reese warned. Step exactly where I step. I'm picking up movement below the surface, Brix reported. Multiple large organisms approximately 30 meters down. What lives here? Apheline whispered, carefully matching Race's footsteps. Glassworms, Race replied grimly. Mutated by the residual radiation, they sense vibrations through the glass. One wrong step, too much noise. As if on cue, a section of glass 50 meters ahead exploded upward as a massive segmented creature erupted from below. Its transparent body revealed internal organs pulsing with bioluminescent fluids, and its circular mouth contained rotating rings of crystalline teeth. Don't move, Race breathed, freezing in place. The worm hovered for a moment, its eyeless head swiving as though tasting the air, then with surprising grace for its size it plunged back beneath the surface, leaving a gaping hole in the glass plane. It didn't see us, Apheline whispered after a moment. It didn't feel us, Ray corrected. Brix vibration dampening field already on it, the AI responded, but it has limited range and duration. We need to cross this waste quickly but carefully. They proceeded in tense silence, each step calculated and precise. Halfway across, Apheline stumbled slightly, sending a tiny cascade of glass shards tinkling downward. The sound, minimal though it was enough. The glass beneath them trembled. Run, Race shouted, grabbing Apheline's hand. As the surface began to crack in expanding circles around them, they sprinted across the treacherous terrain as massive forms moved beneath the transparent surface, converging on their location. The glass buckled and heaved like a stormy sea. Jump, Brix warned as a worm erupted directly in their path. Race lunged forward, snatching Apheline mid-stride and launching them both over the massive glass worm that erupted in their path. Brix enhanced armor propelled them through the air as crystalline teeth snapped shut where they had stood milliseconds before. They landed hard on the other side, skidding across razor sharp glass that shredded through Race's armor in places. Blood leaked from a dozen small cuts, but he ignored the pain as he dragged Apheline to her feet. The canyon edge is 300 meters ahead, Brix announced, tactical display highlighting their escape route. Multiple hostiles converging below and behind us. The ground beneath them heaved like a living thing as more worms sensed their presence. The glass plane had become a churning sea of deadly predators. We're not going to make it running, Race realized, watching fracture lines racing ahead of them. Then we don't run, Apheline's golden eyes locked with his. We fly. Before he could respond, she pressed herself against his armored chest. Your suit, it has propulsion capabilities, doesn't it? Theoretically, Brix answered, but we've never tested the full thrust capacity with 2 occupants. No time like the present, Race muttered, wrapping an arm securely around Apheline's waist. Brix full burn vertical trajectory, then angled toward the canyon. This is going to hurt, Brix warned, diverting all power to thrusters. The armor hummed as energy redirected to hidden ports along Race's spine and calves. Apheline wrapped her arms around his neck as the vibrations intensified. Hold on, Race ordered. The thrust came like a physical blow, launching them skyward. Just as the glass plane shattered beneath them, worms leapt into the air after them, crystalline teeth gnashing at empty space as Race and Apheline rocketed away. The acceleration crushed them together. Apheline's face buried against Race's neck. He could feel her heart hammering in perfect counterpoint to his own, a strange synchronicity that felt unnervingly right. Power reserves at 30%, Brix reported as they arced through the air. We'll make the canyon, but it's going to be a rough landing below them. The glass wastes receded, giving way to jagged rock formations that marked the beginning of the eastern canyons. In the distance, the distinctive shape of an Imperial scout ship gleamed in the moonlight. There, Apheline pointed by the tall spire. Race angled their descent, but the armor's thrusters sputtered as power dwindled. They dropped faster than intended, the ground rushing up to meet them. Brace for impact, Brix warned Race. Twisted in midair, positioning himself to take the brunt of the landing, they struck the canyon floor hard races. Armor cracking against the stone as they tumbled across the rough terrain. Pain exploded across his back and shoulders as protection systems failed when they finally stopped rolling. Race lay on his back staring up at the three moons. Through a cracked helmet display, Atheline was sprawled across his chest, breathing heavily but apparently uninjured. "You okay?" he managed to ask. She lifted her head, black hair falling around her face like a curtain. "Better than you, I think." Her hands moved to his helmet, carefully removing it to reveal a nasty gash across his forehead. "You're bleeding." "I've had worse." Race attempted to sit up, but the armor had locked up. "Power reserves depleted." "Brick status report." "Silence, Bricks." Race tried again, a note of concern entering his voice. A weak light flickered on the chest plate. "System reboot in progress." Brick's voice came through, distorted and faint. "Impact damage extensive. Primary functions offline. Can you disengage?" Race asked, trying to move his arms within the now rigid armor. "Emergency release activated." The armor shuddered, then began to retract, folding back into the compact cube form as the last pieces detached. Bricks dropped to the ground beside them, lights flickering erratically. "I don't feel so good, Captain." Race carefully picked up the damaged cube. "How bad?" "Core processor intact, memory bank secure." Brick's voice stabilized slightly, but mobility and transformation systems are fried. "I'm just a talking box until repairs." Atheline placed a gentle hand on the cube. "I can help with that once we reach safety." "Bioengineering includes cybernetic systems." "A beautiful alien who can also fix me." Bricks as lights pulsed appreciatively. "I'm starting to see why you keep her around, Captain Hotshot." Race pocketed the damaged drone and surveyed their surroundings. The canyon walls loomed high on either side, providing cover from orbital scanners but also limiting escape routes. "Your ship?" he prompted, wincing as he stood. Several ribs felt cracked and his back was one massive bruise. Atheline nodded, pointing toward the spire she'd identified earlier. "This way, it's camouflaged." They moved through the canyon as quickly as Race's injuries would allow. Above them the sky was beginning to lighten. Dawn was approaching, which would make them easier to spot. "Imperial scanners will be sweeping these canyons soon," Race noted, checking his blaster's charge. "Your ship better be ready to fly." "It will be." Atheline paused at a seemingly blank wall of rock, then pressed her palm against a specific spot. The stone shimmered and dissolved, revealing a small but sleek spacecraft unlike any Race had seen before. "Thraxilian stealth scout," she explained, leading him inside. Designed for deep reconnaissance missions, the hull adapts to its surroundings. The interior was compact but efficiently designed, with a cockpit barely large enough for two and a small living area behind it. Strange organic patterns covered the control panels, pulsing with soft blue light. "Bio-interfaced?" Race asked, recognizing the symbiotic technology. Atheline nodded, sliding into the pilot's seat. Her hands moved across the controls and the ship responded as though it were an extension of her body. "It requires Thraxilian genetic markers to operate. Another way they keep us controlled." The engines hummed to life, a sound so quiet it was more felt than heard. External cameras showed no signs of pursuit yet, but Race knew it wouldn't last. "Where are we heading?" he asked, settling into the co-pilot's chair with Burek still clutched in his hand. Atheline punched coordinates into the navigation system. "There's a small moon in the Kaldari system, uninhabited off most charts. The Empire abandoned a research station there decades ago. It should have the equipment I need." The ship rose silently, hugging the canyon walls for cover. As it ascended, within minutes they had cleared Veltraxis 1's atmosphere and accelerated away from the planet. "No pursuit signatures yet," Atheline reported, checking the scanner. "The stealth systems are holding." Race finally allowed himself to relax marginally, setting Bricks on a charging dock built into the console. "You should rest. I'll take first watch." Atheline's golden eyes studied him. "You're the one who's injured." "I'm fine now, thanks to you." "I mean it." Race insisted that energy transfer earlier. "It took more out of me than I realized." She nodded slowly, understanding. "Wake me if anything changes." She stood but paused before leaving the cockpit. "Race, thank you not just for the energy but for trusting me." "Don't thank me yet," he replied. "We're still fugitives with the Empire on our tail." "True." A small smile played across her lips. "But at least we're fugitives together." As she disappeared into the rear compartment, Brick's lights flickered. "She's got it bad for you, Captain," the drone commented weakly. "Conserve your energy." Brick's Race ordered, ignoring the comment. "Just saying her biological readings spike whenever she looks at you. Classic signs of attraction, or she's planning to eat you. With aliens it could go either way." "Sleep Mode Bricks. Now the drone's lights dimmed, obediently leaving Race alone. With his thoughts as stars streaked past the view screen despite his outward calm. His mind raced with questions. What had he gotten himself into? What was this pull he felt toward Atheline, and most troublingly, what would happen when the Empire caught up to them, as they inevitably would? 3 days later they approached the Caldari system, a dim red dwarf star orbited by a handful of barren planets and moons. Atheline guided the ship toward the smallest moon, a desolate rock with no atmosphere in a landscape scarred by ancient impacts. There she pointed to a structure barely visible against the gray surface, the research station. As they landed, Race surveyed the abandoned facility through the view screen. Looks intact. Any idea what they were researching here? Us, Atheline replied simply. This was one of the early Threxilian breeding facilities before they moved operations to more controlled environments. The word breeding hung in the air between them. Over the past 3 days in the confined space of the ship, the energy between them had grown palpable. Twice more Atheline had needed energy transfers. Each time the connection had lasted longer, grown more intense. Race found himself thinking about her even when they were apart, a strange hunger building inside him that mirrored her own. They donned lightweight environmental suits and entered the facility through an airlock that still functioned despite decades of abandonment. Inside, emergency lighting activated automatically, revealing laboratories filled with strange equipment that was part mechanical, part biological. Bricks, are you picking up any active systems? Race asked, having repaired the drone's basic functions during their journey. Minimal power readings, Bricks reported, hovering unsteadily beside them. Life support is functioning at 30% capacity. No signs of other life forms. Atheline moved directly to a central chamber dominated by a platform surrounded by curved organic-looking machines. The Genesis chamber, she explained, running her hands over the controls. This is where they created the first of my kind. Created? Race raised an eyebrow. I thought you said your species evolved naturally. We did, but the Empire modified us generation by generation. Her voice grew distant, as though recalling ancient memories. They needed us to interface with their technology to enhance their capabilities. We became tools, weapons, pets. She activated the chamber, and holographic displays flickered to life, showing genetic sequences twisting and combining in complex patterns. The information I stole. She reached into a hidden pocket and withdrew a small data crystal. It contains the original genetic template of my species before imperial modification, and something else. Her golden eyes met his, intense and vulnerable simultaneously. The truth about me? Ray stepped closer, drawn by the emotion in her voice. What truth? Atheline inserted the crystal into the chamber's control panel. New images appeared. A female figure highlighted with genetic markers, surrounded by data streams in the imperial language. I am not merely a scientist, she said quietly. I was engineered to be the queen of a symbiotic race that was systematically exterminated when the Empire no longer needed them. I carry within me the genetic key to my entire species. Reese stared at the holographic display, then back at Atheline. Queen, the last of my kind, she nodded. Designed to produce offspring with specific genetic traits, but the Empire discovered I had developed anomalies, independence, resistance to control. When they tried to terminate me, I escaped with this. She gestured to the data crystal, the means to free my species forever. How her eyes held his, unwavering, by creating a new lineage, one that cannot be controlled. She stepped closer to him, close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her body. Even through the environmental suit, I wasn't supposed to survive, she confessed, but now I don't just want to live, I want to live with you inside me. Race's breath caught at the directness of her words. What exactly are you saying? Your biology, Race, the quantum radiation that permeates your cells. She placed a hand on his chest. It's the perfect counterpoint to the imperial controls embedded in my genetics. If I conceive a child with you, only you, it would create an entirely new evolutionary branch of my species, one that could never be enslaved. The implication stunned him. You want me to father a new race? I want us to create a future, she corrected. Together. Before Race could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Bricks spun frantically, multiple ships entering orbit, imperial signatures. They found us, Atheline gasped, moving quickly to the chamber controls. How the power surged when we activated the systems. Race realized, drawing his blaster. We need to move, there's nowhere to run, Atheline said, working frantically at the controls. Not this time. The facility shook as something heavy landed on the surface nearby. Race moved to the entrance, checking angles and preparing defensive positions. Brick's status of Those ships, 3 Imperial cruisers and a command vessel, Brix reported they've deployed. Ground forces, elite cyber hunters, at least 20 there surrounding the facility. Apheline finished whatever she was doing at the controls and moved to Race's side. I've initiated the sequence. If anything happens to me, the data will broadcast on all frequencies. Nothing's happening to you, Reese stated firmly, handing her a backup blaster. We faced worse odds, she smiled sadly. Have we? The outer doors of the facility exploded inward. Cyber hunters poured through the breach, their bodies more machine than flesh, weapons integrated directly into their limbs. Race and Apheline fell back into the Genesis chamber, taking cover behind ancient equipment. Brix, any chance of reactivating combat mode? Race shouted over the blaster fire. Negative, Captain. The drone dodged incoming fire systems. Still 2 damage. The battle was brutal and short. For every hunter Race dropped, 2 more appeared. A stun blast caught him in the shoulder, sending him crashing into the Genesis platform. Pain exploded across his nervous system as the platform activated, responding to the quantum-altered structure of his biology. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Apheline standing over him, her environmental suit torn open, her green skin beginning to pulse with patterns of light that spread from her core outward. Apheline, he managed to whisper. Trust me, she replied, her voice changed deeper, resonating with power that hadn't been there before. This was always our destiny. Darkness claimed him when Race awoke. Absolute silence surrounded him. No alarms, no weapons fire, nothing. He blinked, vision clearing to see the ceiling of the Genesis chamber above him. He tried to move, finding his body responding sluggishly but without pain. Easy, Captain. Hot shot. Brix's familiar voice came from nearby. You've been unconscious for 6 hours. Reese turned his head to see the drone hovering beside him. Somehow repaired. What happened? The hunters gone, Brix replied simply. All of them. The ships too? How? Race sat up, scanning the chamber. It was intact but changed. The walls now covered in a crystalline growth that pulsed with soft green light, and there by the central platform was Apheline. She stood with her back to him, environmental suit gone, her naked green skin luminous in the strange light. As he watched, she turned slowly to face him. Her body was unchanged yet somehow more as though she had become more fully herself, her essence concentrated and perfected. But what drew his gaze was the soft pulsing glow emanating from her abdomen, a perfect sphere of light that seemed to contain galaxies. What did you do? He asked, approaching her with unsteady steps. What we were meant to do, she answered, her voice melodic. When the hunters had us cornered, I activated the dormant genetic program within me, what my ancestors called mating protection. In our most desperate moments we can transform, becoming conduits of pure creation. She took his hand and placed it on the glowing sphere within her belly. Our energies combined. Race, your quantum radiation and my genetic template. The resulting discharge obliterated the hunters and their ships. Nothing within a kilometer radius survived except us, and this is. He couldn't finish the question, overwhelmed by the implications. Our child, she confirmed, eyes shining, the first of a new lineage.